President Biden signing the PACT Act into law just a few hours ago. The legislation will help veterans who were exposed to toxins during their time in the U.S. Armed Forces. Biden addressing the crowd, praising all veterans for their sacrifice and their service.
PACT Act is the least we can do for the countless men and women, many of whom may be in this room for all I know, who suffered toxic exposure while serving their country. Less than 1% of you, less than 1% of you risk everything to defend 99% of the population. 1% risk 99%. We owe you. You're the backbone, you're the steel, you're the sinew, you're the very fiber that makes this country what it is.
For more, we bring in now ABC News contributor and former State Department official, retired Marine Colonel Steve Ganyard. Steve, thanks so much for joining us. President Biden celebrating the passing of the PACT Act, calling it the most significant law our nation has ever passed to help millions of veterans exposed to burn pits. Do you agree with that?
I think it's a bit of hyperbole in there, Deirdre, but it is an important act. You know, there's an old adage that's called the Pottery Barn Rule, and the Pottery Barn Rule goes like this: if you break it, you bought it, and that needs to be the case with America's veterans. Going back not only in 20 years, the past 20 years of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, going back to Vietnam and still Korean War veterans, still alive, still requiring that care. What happened here with the burn pits is that a traditional way of getting rid of trash, every kind of trash you can imagine that was on any kind of base around the world, was just burned. They would put some sort of diesel fuel or some kind of fuel into that pit and burn it. They didn't know that the toxic fumes, or nobody realized the toxic fumes that were being released, could cause serious problems. So now you have these veterans showing up years later with these horrible problems that could be directly linked to these burn pits. So the problem was that nobody really documented at the time. Nobody knew that it was going on. Nobody knew the extent. But it's clear that there's some sort of correlation here between these illnesses that the veterans get years later, but are just now showing up and are just now being taken care of in a special way with special funding by this act. So,
Steve, what are you hearing from the military community?
Yeah, they're obviously quite supportive. You know, there was a trope, Deirdre, after Vietnam War that that veterans came back and they were broken, they had PTSD, and it was false then and it's false now. Some things to think about. Veterans make 20% more than the average American. The veteran unemployment rate is 35% better than the average American. So veterans are an important contributing part of society. But there are those who have been broken by war and who need taken care of in special ways. And the burn pit issue was not understood. It is becoming more well understood, and now the Congress has taken the step, and the President's signing today this bill that will add monies to the Veterans Administration account to be able to take care of folks who seem to have been affected by these toxic chemicals.
So, Steve, the president speaking not just as the commander-in-chief, but also as a grieving parent. Remind us why this bill matters so much to him personally.
Yeah, nobody can, other than a parent who's lost a child, no one can understand that pain. And so somebody like the president who had a son go to war, come home, and you say, oh, they've served, and now years later something turns up that takes their life. And that's what a lot of those veterans that you saw in the room with the president, that's what the shock was, that they went, they served their country, they survived, they came home, had productive lives, and then years later, something that they were exposed to, or for some reason, they developed these terrible mystery illnesses. And so that's why the president has this vested emotional interest.
Yeah, emotional for many, and in fact, many appeared to be overcome with emotion, including TV host Jon Stewart. He was there when the vote initially passed, even getting a standing ovation at the White House today. What do you think about that response? I mean, it's in support of him publicizing, right, this issue for many.
Yeah, I mean, Jon Stewart did a great thing here because he pushed forward. He rallied public opinion around this idea. For years, it had been resisted by the Congress, as I said, because there was no metrics. You couldn't say these veterans, or this number of veterans, this percentage of veterans are getting sick with these kinds of diseases because of this kind of exposure. So without that metric, it was all almost anecdotal. But finally, with people like Jon Stewart creating this huge wave of momentum of public opinion, forcing the Congress to come to grips, and that is what was celebrated in the room there with the president.
Steve, thank you so much. We appreciate your thoughts.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.